So hello, good evening to you all. And thank you so much for coming to our session to learn more about the CWRU in Madrid program. In a moment here, I'll have everyone say hello and introduce themselves. And my name is Bob McCullough, Dean of Admission. You might have seen my name and my face on some emails in your inbox. And so really delighted to have this time with you and with these great panelists to talk about this program. So I'll kick things over to Autumn for your introduction.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bob. I'm Autumn Beechler-Steebing. I'm the director for the Office of Education Abroad, and I'm really excited to be here and talk to you all about CWRU Madrid. And then I'll kick it to Arjun.
Hi, I'm Arjun. I was a student in Madrid last semester, so hopefully I can provide some insight into the program from my end.
Hi, my name is Gori. I was also a student for the Career in Madrid program last semester. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and answer any questions if I can.
Right. Hi, I'm Katya. I was also part of the program and also excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, certainly no better sort of resource than people who actually live through the program. And our three student panelists tonight are also extra special because they were the first ones to do this program. And so they had a great experience, and hopefully you'll learn more about that a little bit later when we have some questions for them, but also really grateful that they were able to kind of be a part of this inaugural cohort and also then to share their experiences with all of you. So the plan tonight is we're going to talk between myself and Autumn about some of the kind of program, the logistics, sort of structure, some of those kind of important things for you all to know about. And then we'll have some questions for our students. Certainly, if you have any kind of questions that we haven't been able to address, then we'll do our best to answer those questions as well, and just do our best to give you as much information as we can about this really great program and great opportunity. So I think I'm first up, and so I'll say a little bit about the program specifically. And why we do CWRU in Madrid, and kind of how this came about. This is for the last several years we've had students who have started as first-year students in January, and this is because typically in the spring we have some students who either graduate or maybe study abroad or are doing a co-op or whatever it might be. And so we're because our opportunities in the fall are a little bit more crunched, we have some students then who are able to take advantage of some of the space that we have available here on campus in the spring. And this CWRU in Madrid program is a really terrific partnership that we have in our kind of admissions world, along with our education abroad partners, where it allows us to not only have students be able to have an experience where they're beginning their college experience overseas and having a really terrific opportunity to kind of gain in some of the cultural experiences there, but they're doing so in an environment alongside other first-year Case Western Reserve students. And so that allows this cohort of students to have some shared experiences, to get to know one another, so that when they arrive on campus in January, they know some people, they've been able to spend some time with other Case Western Reserve students. And, I have to say for myself, the first time that I was in Madrid was in November, and was when I got to hang out with some of our fine students here and be able to kind of hear a little bit about what was going on, see the campus and so on. So I can say from very limited experience that Madrid's a pretty great place to be and a pretty great place to study. And so I'm going to kick things over to Autumn to talk a little bit more about our study abroad partner that we work with there in Madrid.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of being back on our Carlos III campus in Madrid just about 3 weeks ago, and I was there over spring break visiting and touring some things. So, sometimes we get asked with this program, like, how did we choose Carlos III in Madrid? And the reason is because we have such a long-standing partnership with them. So they have been institutional partners for over 20 years, relationships since the early 2000s. And we send a lot of our students there. A lot of our upper class students naturally go to study abroad there. It's a popular location. It's also an institution that is academically matched with Case Western. A lot of their courses transfer back to the vast majority of our majors, which is how come we're able to send so many students there. And then even though it's Madrid, the majority of their courses are taught in English, if not all of their courses are taught in English. So it really makes it very accessible for students when there's the academics, when there's the longstanding relationship, and when we have so many students going and taking their courses in English is what they're best able to do. So one of the other benefits to Carlos III in Madrid is that we have a relationship where they send us students as well. So we typically every year have a dozen or so full year students that are spending their time at Case Western, but their home institution is Carlos III in Madrid. So that's another cool way to stay connected with your study abroad from a student experience, to meet somebody before you go, to reconnect once you come back. Like, there's a lot of opportunities there for students to continue to be engaged with that experience. And then they're also a very highly ranked institution. So they're in the top 50 under 50 in the QS World University rankings. They're number 10 in Europe on those very same rankings. They're one of the best universities in the world for employability. And they're a highly internationalized university. So they have over 1,500 study abroad students that attend there every year. They're very accommodating and very used to bringing in international students and working with them. And over 50% of their undergraduate student body studies abroad for up to 2 academic years. So everybody who's there is either studying abroad, about to study abroad, or is an international student from somewhere. So it's a really internationalized university where our students that are there can easily sort of fit in a little bit better. So that's why we chose Carlos III. All of those reasons and more. And then, the other thing that we always like to talk about with study abroad are some of the things that we know, some of the research and the studies and what it shows about students after they study abroad. Bob mentioned a little bit about how students are, growing their soft skills when they study abroad, but there has been a lot of research that has shown things like 97% of study abroad students find employment within 12 months of graduation. It's compared to 49% of the general college population. Things like 84% of study abroad alum feeling like study abroad helped them build valuable job skills. So agreeing with what we say when we say studying abroad builds your soft skills. And because study abroad provides that opportunity to interact with a diverse group of people and learn cross-cultural communication, that is a valued trait amongst employers. When our students graduate and they go out into the real world, if you will, they're going to be problem solving. And if you get some time to spend in another country, in another culture, where you're learning about problems in a different light, it just makes you more adept at solving problems and becoming successful. And the last one of the statistics that I'll mention that are national are that study abroad alum, maybe because of all of these reasons, earn approximately 25% more than their peers who did not have a study abroad experience. And then at Case Western, 100% of our study abroad students recommend it. Say go. So we think that there's a lot of benefits to it. There's a really good reason for this institution, and our students like it. So it seems to work out.
Awesome. So thank you for that, Autumn, and a great overview of the benefits of study abroad and really the benefits of being at Carlos III. So one question that we get a lot is well, why me? Why was I invited, or what the opportunity might be? And I know we have kind of a range of students who are with us on the webinar tonight in kind of different phases. So some students have been invited and been offered the opportunity, and some students have expressed interest and are kind of in sort of a little bit more in process there. What I can say is that the university Case Western Reserve, our applicant pool has grown really quite substantially over the last few years, and we've seen lots of great students that we'd love to be able to have on campus, that we just don't have room for all of the terrific students that are out there, that we'd like to be able to have be a part of the university. And so part of the spring admission in the CWU in Madrid for the fall admission is to enable us to invite some of those students who we think would be great at Case Western Reserve to be a part of the program. And one of the things that I think is, and we'll talk a little bit more about timelines and things like that in a minute here, but the nature of how this program works, and also kind of how students are making decisions at this point in their senior year, is that the calendar of kind of admission and then students accepting the opportunity ends up kind of aligning with the calendar for what you would choose to do, kind of in the fall anyway. So it's a pretty tight timeline where we need to know by May 1st of students who are going to accept the offer, because as Autumn will cover in a few minutes here, there are a lot of next steps that need to happen that we don't have a ton of time for, and a lot of those steps are things that are outside of our control. So we are moving very quickly in the admission office to review students who have indicated they're interested, and to extend offers to students who we think would be especially good fits for the program. And part of what we're thinking about, some of it is actually like things that are logistics that are outside of anybody's control. Like you have to be 18 by May 1 because of the nature of how the visa thing works. But some of the other things, one of the things that we think about is students who we think are most likely to be really benefiting from this opportunity. Students who might have been, engaged in high school and are likely to find that opportunity to be engaged abroad. Students who might be up for the adventure of going overseas for the first semester and are willing to kind of try that out. So there are some things that'll kind of go into that selection process that we'll be thinking about as well. But we're moving very quickly, I guess, is kind of the point with that. So for those who are interested but haven't heard more about it, we will be moving very quickly to extend offers of admission for students that we think would be most appropriate for the program. So with that, I am going to open to our student panelists, and I have a few questions that I'd like to ask them and get a little bit of their insight on. And maybe we'll start, and each of you can kind of comment on these questions, and you can think about who. I won't call on you. You can just jump in whenever it is that you're ready. So I'll just pose a question. So this is something that for all of you, this was not what you initially planned when you applied for college, and it's what happened. So what were your first thoughts when you were offered the opportunity to study in Madrid as part of this program?
I was really excited, honestly. When I opened my admission letter, I saw that I got in, and I was very happy, obviously. And then I saw that I got into the CWRU Madrid program, and I told my parents, like, oh, there's a twist. And I got really excited, like I started researching. So I was super happy about it from the beginning.
Arjun, I saw you unmute for a minute there.
Yes. So when I first received that admissions letter, I took a second to like process it, because that obviously, it was a surprise. But then I thought about it a little more, and I took Spanish classes in high school. I planned on, I was thinking about studying abroad anyway, and I thought, this was just a really great opportunity to do that. And then it was a wonderful opportunity. I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, honestly, same. When I first got the admission letter, I was very surprised, but I was also very happy because studying abroad is something I wanted to do in college anyway. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to like get into it. And also because I felt like I was very culturally involved in high school, that it was very perfect for me. Like I did like enjoy it a lot.
Awesome. Um, so what about what about the adjustment? What was it like for you to go over to Carlos III? What was it like for you kind of academically? What was it like for you socially? To be an ocean away from home. What was that adjustment like? Maybe you could comment on that.
So the adjustment into well, so there are a few questions there, but I'll speak on the adjustment to just like living overseas for your first semester of college, right? Because just by default, that first semester is always going to be very different from high school. It's always a change, and so I think it was a bit different, not being able to go home over spring break or whatever, or having it be much further away. But I honestly think that I developed a lot more independence very quickly, as being put in that position, and it was very good in that respect. Um, Academically, it was the way the school works is and the way the classes work are slightly different than I think my experience here at Case has been on campus, but it was still very like very much it wasn't unexpected. It was good.
Yeah, I think for me it was very similar too. It was like um going abroad like first semester, it was a change, but I think you when you're put in a situation like that, it's very easy to like see your surroundings and acclimate to it very fast. It's a change, but again, you're at a point in your life where you're ready for that change, you're ready for that step after high school. So I thought it wasn't a horrible unexpected change. It was more of a I feel like I'm ready to move on now. And even like academically, my high school at least it worked very differently than the system at UC3M was. But I think again, you get adjusted to it. I think you go to classes and you see, hey, what works for you. You study and you do your best, and I think it all works out.
Yeah, I think and like anytime you move to a new place, like after like any like transition time, I think it does take a little while to adjust. But once I started getting excited about the area, like started exploring a little more, then I think it got better. And then academically, I felt like high school prepared me pretty well. Like there weren't as many homework assignments, but you still had to like go to class, do the readings. So I think overall the adjustment went pretty well.
Okay. What was it like? Maybe if you could comment on sort of the experience of, I know you were a relatively small cohort of a dozen students, but what was it like to be with other Case Western Reserve students? Talk about that experience. Did you have much interaction? What did the interaction look like? And do you see one another now that you're here on campus?
Yeah, I think I definitely couldn't have imagined going on that journey without anybody with me, anyone from Case Western. I think that it's it's an experience that really bonds you together, especially when you're put um overseas together, and especially because our cohort especially was only a dozen students. It brought us all very close. It We all got very close, I think, during our experience abroad. We also traveled together all the time. It was like almost every other weekend. And traveling together as a group, it's always more fun and it always adds to the experience more than going alone. So I think it was definitely a plus, and I couldn't have imagined it any other way.
Yeah, I was really glad to have the cohort. Like we all lived in the same area, so we saw each other every day. I still see a lot of people here back at Case, and I think it made it a lot more fun just having people who are in the same situation, and it was great.
Absolutely. The other students that were with us, definitely, we all relied on one another, and whenever we needed help, there was always those other people that you could go for, to you could go ask for assistance with. And then I think, as the upcoming Madrid cohort is planned on being larger, correct me if I'm wrong, than it was for us. And I think that will definitely be, even better, with a larger group, more people to be there with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, definitely. We're hoping to grow the program a little bit, and so you'll have a few more friends there. Gloria, you mentioned kind of traveling. I'd love to hear about your experiences of taking advantage of getting into Madrid itself. Maybe it might be helpful to talk a bit about sort of the campus in relation to Madrid, but also then and beyond. In Spain and beyond, kind of traveling experiences that you might have had.
Yeah, it was great. Like the location of where we lived, especially, we were, I think, about a 10-ish, 15-minute walk from campus, like where our dorms were. And so that was the location was pretty good. And also the campus from Madrid was pretty close. It was just a train ride away. And so we would go to Madrid all the time, like the city. We would travel, like we traveled all across Europe. And I think being in Spain, it's very accessible to all of the different countries around it, and it makes for a very good study abroad experience, especially in a country like Spain. So I think that was a good, very good benefit.
Yeah, I think that most people were going into, taking the train into downtown Madrid, like quite regularly. It's really what, like 30 to 40 minutes away. Just it's very easy to get into the city, and spend time there doing all sorts of various activities. It's a great city. Um, the university itself was close by to the dorms, about a 10-minute walk, as Gori said, which was a convenient location. There are all sorts of restaurants, and whatever else, whatever other things you need, they're nearby. Um, and in addition, I know that there were groups of people that went to all sorts of different locations around Europe as well, when we had chances to travel.
I was really lucky. I was able to travel like almost every weekend or like every other weekend. And it was because like transportation was really amazing there. Like they have trains that go almost everywhere, like within the country. I got to visit a bunch of different cities. And then flights, like you could find them at pretty reasonable prices too, and you could visit other places. So it was great.
Okay. Arjun, you mentioned that you had taken Spanish in high school. And so, others, did you have Spanish before? Kind of yes, no, maybe? Nodding ahead and no. So what was it? And so for those of you who had Spanish, maybe you could talk about, did you improve? And Katya, who did not, what was it like for you to be in a Spanish-speaking country?
It was very different. So I took French in high school and I tried to learn some Spanish over the summer when I knew I was going, but I was definitely not at the level I needed to be. But I was still able to make my way around. Like I had to rely on other Spanish speaking people a few times, but I picked up some of it towards the end, I think.
And for the two of you who had had some exposure before, what was that like?
The experience, or the amount of the language that I learned in high school was definitely enough to be able to at least navigate basic, conversations with people and ask for whatever I needed. There were many people around Madrid and Spain in general that spoke English. So, even if there wasn't, like, even if wasn't able to express something in Spanish, there was always someone there that I could, like, that would understand me even if I spoke in English. So, honestly, it's most of the country is multilingual in that respect, especially at the university.
Yes, I think I took Spanish all of high school, and like of course going into being put in another country that speaks Spanish is so different than just learning it in high school. So for me, at least it was a bit of a learning curve. A lot of the Spanish that I've learned in high school didn't really match up with the Spanish that we spoke or the people in Spain speak. But I think again, it's a very, very friendly city. there's multilingual people everywhere. There are English speakers everywhere, and I think it's very easy to navigate, especially as a fluent English speaker. So I think it does help if you have Spanish background, but again, like it's not necessary at all. It's very easy to navigate without.
Yeah, good, excellent. All right, one more question before I'll give you all a break. Now it's somehow it got to be the middle of April. I don't know how that happened, but they tell me the calendar is accurate. So you're rounding into the last kind of home stretch of the semester here. Can you talk about your transition, what it was like to get on campus, what the transition and sort of to and through this first semester here at the university has been like for you?
I know a lot of people I'm pretty sure everybody in our cohort was worried about coming onto campus in the spring semester, and like would we make friends with people on campus? And I can confidently say now that the spring semester is almost over, that was not an issue. There were all sorts of other people, fall admits that were coming in, or spring admits that were coming in for spring orientation that I met there. And then, of course, there were people who had already been on campus for a month that came there in the fall that I got to know, and it really was not an issue socially coming back. It was, of course, adjusting from Spain to back to the US was fun, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I definitely think that was one of the things that a lot of us were worried about, just adjusting back socially to life here, because again, a lot of the students on campus have been here since August. But again, like Arjun said, like I don't think it wasn't something that when I look at it now with my perspective right now, it wasn't something I should have been worried about really, because there are people who are in the same boat as you, especially if now the cohort size is going to be increased. I think it'll be much better because you'll have more people who share that experience, and so you're all put onto campus together. And again, there are so many different people like coming to campus in the spring as well. So you're not alone regardless, I think, and you'll definitely find your people. There's people everywhere. People are very friendly here. So I think it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it helped a lot coming into spring orientation because then there were a bunch of new faces, like people are still adjusting. So I was able to figure that out very quickly, like you find new people. And then that, like Corey said, everyone's really nice here. So that definitely helps.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for your comments. I'll circle back to you in a little bit. But again, I think a couple of themes that were brought out that I think are really important to know. One is being able to start with a cohort, and as you heard, the cohort we're growing that this fall, and so that'll give you a chance to kind of have a group of students that that you can explore a little bit with over in Spain, and then be able to kind of come here on campus with. And also you heard, we'll have about 100 students typically who start in the spring at the university total, including the students who participate in the CWRU in Madrid program. So again, you're not alone. We have, lots of other students. We have an orientation and so on that will happen for those students. So in terms of next steps, I'll hit on that, and then I'll kick it over to Autumn to talk a little bit more about some of the details of the experience on the ground in Madrid. One, by being here, we know that you've at least expressed some degree of interest. So we know you're kind of on the table for that. As I mentioned earlier, we're moving very quickly to extend offers to students for this program. If you haven't already received an offer, that we'd be considering you, and it'll be really important for you to then accept your offer of admission to the program with the enrollment deposit. And this is a program that we expect will fill up, and will probably fill up before May 1st. And so it's kind of a first come, first served kind of thing once offers are out there. And so if you're a student who's thinking about it and you have an offer, I would really encourage you to kind of dig in and really think hard, because we want to make sure that we're accommodating students who are interested, but there is a limited number of spaces that will be available for the fall. So again, our expectation, May 1st will be the deadline, but we think it's likely to fill up before May 1st. So that's kind of where we are with that. So I'm going to ask Otto to talk a little bit more about some of the what happens on the ground there at Carlos III.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bob. I'm seeing a lot of questions in the Q&A section that I think I'm about to answer. So tune back in. But some of the things, where I'm seeing questions about curriculum, I'm seeing questions about housing, and as far as the logistics go. So the housing is going to be in doubles. The students will be set up in doubles, and they'll each have their own private bathroom, and they'll have a shared kitchen living room. And the housing is included in the course fee that the students will have, which it's the part of the program for what they register for here at Case Western. And then the other things that are included are your orientation when you come on campus, meals, and the students are going to have half board. So half of their food is going to be provided at their residence, but because so many of our students last year didn't use the board as frequently in the residence hall because they're in Madrid and they're on the other campus for the university. So we're doing half board and a meal stipend this time around, which will make it also, I think, even easier for vegetarian, for vegan students, because you're doing some of your own selection of food. It's a little more free range. And then those are all included within your program fee, which is no more than what housing and meals are at Case Western. So it's actually like the same exact prices if you were here on campus for that. Then students and families are responsible for things like their round trip airfare. There's a required Spanish health insurance that's around 40 euros a month that students need to get for the Spanish visa specifically, and spending money and a mobile phone. So those are the kinds of things that students and families would be responsible for that aren't covered just under the program itself. And as far as the coursework goes, so students will take about 4 to 5 classes at Carlos III in Madrid. You'll hear us also calling it UC3M. So that's a little translation key for you right there. So that will come back as 12 to 15 US credits. And there are a lot of courses. They are a full institution. So they have lots of courses in business. They have courses in engineering. They have courses in the humanities, in STEM fields. They're all in English. Many of our students last year, I mean, there's 3 of them right here. They can tell you better than I can, but we are transferring back, physics courses, chemistry courses. We're transferring back political science, economics, marketing, culture, history, a whole wide array of courses, all of which are going to work to meet degree requirements. We have, now that we've got a year or so under our belts with this program, we have a pre-approved list of courses. So it'll, I think, be easier for students to select which ones they would like to take, because we'll have sort of a curated list for them to go. That's going to be available around the time of June of this summer. Students, additionally, if they have a B2 level of Spanish, or which would be like a 5 on an AP exam or a state bilingual certification, they could take courses in Spanish as well. So that could open up even more than kind of what I've just discussed. But then courses transfer back to Case for progress on your overall credits for graduation. You meet general education requirements, you meet major and minor requirements. Students will get one of their perspectives done as well. UC3M itself, as I've sort of hinted at, has 2 campuses, and they're both 20 minutes from the center of Madrid by a really quick and easy 4 stops on the Cercanías train. Getafe is the suburb that's south of Madrid, and that is where one of their campuses is. That one is where students would take their business classes, their communications classes, humanities, social sciences are all housed there. And then the Leganes campus is again, it's a suburb south of Madrid. and it's 20 minutes away from the Getafe campus. That's their polytechnic school. That's where you take all of their STEM courses. So students can take courses at both campuses. The academics are set up there. There's about 2 classes a week. Each are 90 minutes. So that's for every one course, you have around 2 classes a week, about 90 to 100 minutes. One of the classes is going to be theoretical of those 2. The other one is going to be practical with more small group instruction. Some of the STEM courses might have an additional lab. There is a question in the Q&A about how they're academically different from sort of the United States model. It's that more of the grading is based on the exams. Students are expected to kind of do the work to keep up with the readings, to keep up, to make sure they're understanding the lectures more on their own than where in the United States, everything is very much set up. Like you're going to be given, you know, a homework assignment every week, a quiz every, you know, month, or there's a lot of continual small self like assessments that are given by the faculty. But in Madrid, there's less of those in Spain in general. And that frees up, I think, students' time for a little less busy work, but they're still learning the whole time. They're still engaging with the material. And then the exams are a little bit more heavily weighted, not quite as dramatic as the UK system is, to answer one of the questions in there, but more so an independent learning style than some of the ways that you would find in the US. Once students arrive for the program, we're looking at the expected dates being that the arrival in Madrid is Saturday, August 31st. And then that the Cedarbury Madrid orientation, because in our orientation, we'll have on Sunday, September 1, again, these are expected dates, going to be like a welcome and program kickoff. And then that Monday, September 2nd through Thursday, September 5th is the students orientation to Madrid, orientation to what some of the experience is going to be like, getting to know each other, getting to see campus. We'll take them to the grocery store, like so different things like that, so they can get like much more comfortable in the city. And then Friday, September 6th is actual UC3M's welcome day. So they're going to get a pre-departure orientation also, which I didn't mention yet, but we will do things with the students before they go. We'll have one-on-one advising with them. We'll work through the courses. We'll help them pick out exactly what they want to take, need to take, should take. That'll happen for every student at least twice. And then they will do an online pre-departure orientation with modules that have a very strong health and safety focus to them. We will also probably do another, last year did a webinar for the students just to connect with each other, everyone who's going on the cohort. So that'll be part of their pre-departure orientation. And then they'll have the orientation that Case Western will do once they arrive in Madrid, and that orientation that UC3M will do on the first day. And then the classes actually start at UC3M on Monday, September 9th. Their exams go until December 20th is the last day of their exams, and then we'll close housing around December 22nd. So that's kind of the timeline for the program. Then the things that we need from students who are going to be participating, which is all really for the visa, by May 17th, we're going to need students to have completed a study abroad. It's called an application, but you would have been accepted to the program through the admissions office, which collects key information. So that link will be sent to students after the enrollment deposit. And we would also need all of the items for the visa, which will give very, very specific instructions to students once they need them, once you're determined that this is your choice. So we'll move forward with that. That does include the passport for the students. So that would be needed by May 17th. And then the passport is kept at the consulate for the summer, essentially, while they put the visa into it, and then you get that back. So if students don't have a passport, I don't know that it's possible to get one in time. Or a second passport if you have like pre-planned travel over the summer is also a possibility that several of the students ended up doing last year as well. So I would work on getting those now if that is going to be something that you need. I think that's it. So we should go to some questions, maybe.
Yeah, perfect. So I know that's a lot. That was a lot to kind of process, a lot of dates and details and things like that. But we want to make sure that we're sharing some of that out with you, so that for those of you that are further along in the process, you might be able to start to prepare for some of those things or start to know that's coming. Rest assured, we will be there will be no shortage of communication from us about what needs to happen and when for those students that are participating in the program. So don't worry about that too much. But again, we'll continue to be in touch there. So just kind of taking a look at, and I think as Autumn, as you were talking, I was kind of clicking off some of the questions that were out there and shared. So you know, one very detailed question, but it just happened to be in front of my screen, was about the one about oh, can we send the visa ourselves? Or does this need to go through you? And I know the answer to that, but I'll let you answer.
It has to go through us. We're gonna have to do it. There are the Spanish consulate and the Spanish visa process is really tricky. We have regularly students who try to do it independently and they don't get the visa. And so we just need to make sure that if we're inviting you on this program and you're gonna come to Case Western through this avenue, that it happens. So
Yep.
It has to be through us.
Okay, excellent. One of the questions, and this is a little bit different this year than what it was, or will be different this year compared to what it was last year, which was about your advisor and how that whole process works. And so one of the things that we're doing this year that we didn't do last year, and there were other reasons behind this, is you will be assigned your 4-year advisor in the summer. So as students who are committing to the CWRU in Madrid program will have a chance to connect with their advisor before they go to Madrid. So that will help you, I think, just to be able to kind of, and even you know, as you heard from these three, the transition was fine. But part of the question is just having some of the, yeah, it was a little bit of a stress point, right? There's a little bit of anxiety about kind of how is all this going to work. And so we think being able to have that connection with your advisor before you go, and then know who your advisor is as you move through the fall semester will help to alleviate some of that anxiety. And I'll also very quickly, because it's in front of me, I'll answer this question very quickly about, are you guaranteed housing in the spring? Yes. I love answers that I can give that are very short. There were some questions I'll ask the students, you know, about kind of what was the classroom experience like? How big were classes? What did that feel like? So maybe if you could talk a little bit about that.
Honestly, they weren't okay, let me just put it like this. They weren't like huge lecture halls. So I think even like Autumn mentioned before, how each course is broken up into like a lecture and like a discussion. Even the lecture classes I thought were very small. So I think my biggest class had like 30, like 25, 30 students in it. And these were like the classes that were meant to be like the classes where the professors lecture the students. So I think they're very medium sized, I think. So it's not too overwhelming, and I definitely I like the class size.
In my experience, it definitely varied. Some of the classes that I took were like, yeah, about 30-ish students in the lecture. There were 2 of them where it was closer to 80 students. So, but I think the largest classes they have there are like just under 100 students. So they're not absolutely huge. And there are smaller classes as well.
Yeah, I feel like most of mine were smaller, like 20, 30 kids maybe. I did have 2 classes, like one was like 40 people and the other was like 80 people, so smaller than cases.
I know there were lots of questions. What do we anticipate the cohort being this year? So we expect it to be about 35 students participating in Madrid this year. So that is that. And there was the question, I've been offered the opportunity, am I guaranteed that spot? And that's where, as I had said a little bit earlier, once this fills, it will be full. So if you're thinking that, you're interested, I would encourage you not to delay in accepting that offer. I'll also kind of pull together a few different questions that came through around things like research opportunities and so on, and sort of how the experience may mesh with interest in preparing for medical school. We have lots of students at Case Western Reserve who are interested in preparing for medical school. And I will say this because it's top of mind for me. I just was having a conversation with one of our faculty members in biology who was sharing, we have, Case Western Reserve has abundant research opportunities. Almost all of our science students, a very high proportion of our social science students, and overall about, I think, 83% of students do research at some point at Case Western Reserve. So it's a big part of who we are. However, what this biology professor was sharing was, you don't need to do research in your first year. And really encouraging students to kind of take advantage of some of the other opportunities that they might have, making adjustments to college and so on. And I can also share a perspective that I had from being part of working with our medical school admissions dean, who very much appreciates students. You heard Arjun talk about becoming more independent and becoming more self-driven, being able to kind of have an opportunity to gain in cultural experiences and learn about people who are different from you and be able to kind of have that different perspective. Those are lots of things that medical schools really like and value. So while, and maybe it's the case, I don't want to say that you can't do research. I don't know that you can, but there will be lots of opportunities to do research back here at Case Western Reserve. And the experience of being able to have an international opportunity, I think, has a lot of intrinsic value beyond that. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to say about those things, but. Okay. Keeping an eye on some of the other questions. Just a little bit about Autumn, lots of kind of questions around the housing piece and roommates and all that kind of stuff. Do you have anything you can share there?
Yeah, let me just clarify because I am seeing a lot of questions, so maybe I didn't answer that very clearly. And there's also lots of questions about tuition in there as well, which I'm kind of trying to answer as I go through. So the tuition and room and board is the same as if you were starting in Cleveland. You'll pay the normal prevailing rate of tuition and keeping all of your aid, scholarships, everything that you were told you would get as part of your financial aid package. That will be the same for Cedarburg Madrid as it would be for starting at Case in the fall. That is also true of housing and meals. So the cost of housing and meals in Cleveland is what will be charged for Cedarburg Madrid. So it's supposed to be just the very same finances as if students were starting in Cleveland for that. Then housing, we have double rooms with a shared living space, a shared kitchen, and each person in that double has their own private bathroom. They are all going to be matched with Cedarburg in Madrid students themselves. So no one is going to be living with anybody else. In fact, it's likely that we have to rent out the entire standalone like building inside of which there are maybe 20 rooms, and each is the suite. The room is the suite where there's 2 beds, 2 baths, the shared living, etc. There's also laundry facilities in there as well. How the students will be paired, we will probably follow a similar model to how we do with our faculty-led study abroad programs, where we take Case Western Reserve University students with faculty and they do study abroad for a few weeks over the summer or a winter break as part of a fall semester course or something like that. So we'll follow some of that same model. But they will be only with other Cedar Mary Madrid students in their living spaces. I hope that clears it up.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Few questions around if you participate in this program, can you ever study abroad again, or is it over?
Had to talk.
Yeah, you totally can study abroad again. So I actually studied abroad over spring break. I went to Namibia for a field study. So it's definitely possible. Like you have so many more opportunities to do so, and I encourage it. I think it's really fun.
I think probably most people will wait a little bit longer, you know, and go and like spend a semester abroad, maybe their third year if they wanted to do a full longer experience. But the travel bug is real and we get bitten by it, and some of us a little bit harder than others. So yes, definitely you will study abroad again.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. There's so many great questions that are coming through, and I'm not sure we'll be able to answer all of them, but I want to be mindful of time. So I'm going to move to kind of wrap this up with a couple quick things process-wise, and then I'm going to ask our students one final question. But process-wise, some questions around our offers of admission still being made? Yes. If I've already accepted my offer of admission for Madrid, is it guaranteed? Yes, if you've already accepted it, you're good. So, you know, I think those are probably some of the things that were out there. About financial aid. If I have a financial aid award that was sent to me from as a waitlisted student or whatever it might be, would that financial aid still apply if I'm in this program? Yes. So as Autumn said, if you're essentially, you know, from a cost standpoint, it's as if you were at Case Western Reserve. From a tuition standpoint, from a financial aid standpoint, so it kind of works the same way because it's an exchange sort of partner with us. So with that, certainly, if you have other questions about the program, you know, reach out to us. Admission@case.edu is probably the best way to get a hold of the admission staff and to be able to ask any questions that you might have. Do stay tuned on the email front for updates about your individual situation. And so with that, I will just ask to close, I'll ask our students, you know, if you had to do it all over again, would you go to Madrid?
Yeah, I would go. I had a great time. I would recommend it to anyone, and I think it's a really great opportunity.
Yes, I would. No regrets. I would definitely do it again. It was great. Yes.
Yes, I think like the experience is something that I think it's genuinely a once in a lifetime experience getting to do it this early on. And also like I I don't regret anything. I've made such good friendships while I was there, and I I'm very happy with that experience.
That sounds like 3 for 3 to me. So 100% of our panelists, and at least 25% of the cohort, right, Autumn? So that's a pretty good rate. Yeah. Anything left that we didn't mention, Autumn, that you think we need to hit?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's still some questions rolling in about academics, of course, but I think that the big thing to know is all this you're going to stay on track. Students, when you do the Cedar Mary Madrid program, even if you're pre-med, you're staying on track. You're not going to get off by a semester. It's not a semester lost. It's just not a semester in Cleveland. So it's the same thing that we tell our students when they're going to study abroad for a semester and they're concerned because they're engineering, and we have yet to convince them, although 25% of our engineers study abroad, so you can do it for sure. But it's not a semester off, it's just a semester away. You're taking courses that all count towards your degree. You're staying on track. And those will be more in-depth conversations that we have once admitted to the program. And the students will have us for help advising them individually on the courses in Madrid, and they'll have their four-year advisor as well. So we've got you covered.
Excellent. All right. Well, again, thanks to our panelists for joining tonight. and taking a few minutes away from your studies to be a part of this. Thank you. And thanks to all of our attendees as well for all your great questions and your participation. We're really excited about this next cohort and continuing to build this program. And I'm really excited to come visit you and hopefully take you out to dinner when we're in Madrid. So again, thank you all, and have a great night.